All right, we've got school board president David Caviness here with us today. Thanks so much for coming into our class.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me and inviting me in to talk a little bit today.
Okay, so you work in wealth management. What is your company called? How did you get there? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a certified financial planner. My company is Caviness Wealth Management, so I am what we consider a state registered investment advisor. So I've got my own independent little niche shop that we work with individuals on. I've been doing this really. My degree's in finance, so this is all I've done since 2000. And I've been out on my own. I've had my own firm since 2000, really right at the beginning of 2007.
Okay, why go out on your own? Why not have the safe security of working for one of the big guys like Fidelity or Ameritrade or Schwab, or why not have that security?
Yeah, I actually started with Fidelity, so I have about a year right out of college with Fidelity, and then I went to work for an independent advisor. Really just for me, it was what side of the business did I want to be on. I wanted to have my own clients, to work with clients. I didn't want to be an employee of a larger firm where essentially you're on the clock. You clock in, you clock out, and you go home. For me, it really was about being able to help people and build relationships and see people reach their goals instead of just take whatever comes in the door that day and then you move on to something different. It really is more of an ownership situation for me.
Okay, interesting. Because we've talked about that the differences in being an employee of a business and being an owner of a business, especially from a tax
Correct.
perspective. Was that a big part of your decision, or was it just more about I want to be free to be able to do what I want to do?
A lot of freedom, went into the decision. Let's not lie, the money aspect as well. There's a huge difference when you're an employee of a firm versus, when you own your own shop and, you earn what you keep in one situation, and in another, you've got layers of people above you and you kind of do what they tell you, and you keep less of what you make in those situations. So I think it a little bit of both in what went into the decision, but at the end of the day it really was being in a position to be independent, to do what's right for the client, not um, not have layers of people telling me this is the product we need to push this week or the stock that we're pushing, and that sort of thing. So it really was about being a business owner versus an employee.
So where did you go to college, and what was like? A lot of my students want to go into finance. Is that's the degree they want to seek? Is it an incredibly difficult degree, or what was your experience like?
Yeah, so I went to A&M Commerce. My history kind of goes back even into when I was in high school. We back then had a vocational program. So basically, what that meant is your junior year, you're taking, you're learning about different trades and vocations, and then your senior year, you actually work half a day and you go to school half a day. And I ended up, my senior year, I worked at a bank, and so that kind of piqued my interest into the money world. I actually went to college thinking I'm going to go into banking and be a banker. My degree back then, I started as an accounting major and a finance minor. And as I started taking courses, I realized, accounting was boring, and I like the, I like the finance stuff. So I flipped my major and minor, and kind of the rest is history. I had maybe my sophomore year, may have been first semester my junior year, I had my first investments class, and that's really what tipped the scale for me and pushed me into the investment world. I
Yeah.
just found it really fascinating and fun. And of course, that was the late '90s, so most of your kids probably were not born yet. But that was a very interesting time in the world of investments and stocks, and things were just going gangbusters. So it really piqued my interest, and that's how I am, or how I got to where I am today.
Yeah. And the tough thing for me is I just hate debt. I mean, we have no credit card debt. We paid off our house this last summer, so we're debt free there.
Nice.
We paid off our rental properties a few years ago, right before the COVID, which was wonderful because my wife hadn't started at Sabre yet, and I was still just running
Yeah.
my business. And it is I get the different perspectives from, like, I have a friend of mine who's very much like leverage debt, use debt to your advantage, buy as many rental properties as you can. And that just scares me because I feel like he's over leveraged. And then I get the Dave Ramsey approach over here, which is way on the other side. And he's like, no debt, like pay off your house, pay off everything, live debt free. Where is there a happy balance there? Happy middle there?
Yeah, I'm somewhere in between personally. Obviously, I think no debt is great. The preferable place to be. Is it always realistic? I think that's where you've gotta play in. And sometimes at the end of the day, it's a comfort level for the individual.
No.
For some, it's just you know they don't like the idea of owing the bank or owing anybody anything, and they lose sleep over that. And that's the answer. You pay off your debt, and you've got to look at what the debt is costing you. I think that from a pure data standpoint, if you're financed at 3-4%, 5%, then the trade-off, right? If I pay that off, am I giving anything up in earnings? Can I earn more than that on my money versus
Right.
paying it off? But I have those conversations all the time, and that's the spreadsheet answer, as I call it. And then it really becomes personal to that individual. Some are very comfortable having the payments and continuing with the debt, and some say, look, I want to get the house paid off as quickly as possible, and we put a plan in place to be aggressive in paying that down and getting it paid off as quick as we can.
Is there a platform that you think is a better one for them to start? One of the companies or one of the apps that they could download, do you think is better than another one, or are they all just kind of doing the same thing?
I think they're all very similar. Obviously, Robinhood came to prominence during COVID. And they had their share of issues, as well. I think they're all very similar. I have my kids; they are using a Fidelity account. Fidelity has a good kids platform
Yeah.
with low to zero fees, and allows you to buy fractional shares. That's what I would look for as as somebody that's young, that's getting started, and only maybe can have is putting in small amounts each month or here and there as they have extra money. That's what I would look for. I'd look for one of the online firms that allows for fractional shares, and you can buy just a portion of a stock as you have the free money, and then from there expand out.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, when students are doing the investing in my class from like a fictitious standpoint, where you're given this fictitious money and go
Yep.
invest it, they kind of track the market. But when you actually put your own money into something like Robinhood, how does the psychology change for the investor?
Yeah, I think it becomes real. For one, it's
Yeah.
emotional. Yeah, and I think I had this conversation with somebody the other day. My life is more psychologist than investor some days, especially in years like this where
Right.
you put money in and all you do is see it go down. Because you get short sighted when it's real. The real trick with investing is to kind of separate the emotions from it, have a investment plan and a strategy in place, and know, okay, you know we're going to have some months where things do really well, and we're going to have some months where things don't do as well. But we want to know what the long term goal is,
Yeah.
and know the statistics that markets go up and down, and they go up more than they go down.
Do our speed round now, where we look at each
Let's
slide,
do it.
do a minute. And the first one here, tax shelter, tax deferral. What does that mean? Why should my students care about that?
Look, I think at the end of the day, tax deferral is a legal way to reduce your tax bill. Um, uh, the origins of it, why is it important? I think the importance there is it's an incentive to invest for retirement. And when you look at the history of when did kind of tax deferral or the tax sheltered accounts come into the tax code, it really was a time when we were starting to see employees shift from pensions to kind of pushing that retirement responsibility over to the individual or to the employee, or the employer was pushing um, the retirement onto the backs of the employees. So, tax deferral, especially when you are high income, is a way to reduce your tax bill and tax liability. And a good way to save for the future.
Well, it's interesting because, Warren Buffett recently said in an interview, like, it's not fair that I pay 13% in taxes or whatever it was that he was paying, and his secretary was paying 35% in taxes because she
Yeah.
gets her, she has a job and that's paying her, is this system fair? Like, or like, I mean, obviously my students probably are not going to become senators that are going to change the law or whatever, right? I mean, maybe they will, hopefully, whatever, but like most likely we have to just learn within the system. Is the system rigged in some ways to help people who have ways of kind of sheltering those taxes?
Yeah, I mean, well, now we're talking two different things. Is the tax system fair? No, I think we can, at the end of the day, say no. I mean, it's the same rules apply to everybody, but
Right.
your ability to use certain parts of the tax code depends on, a, how your income is structured. Are
Yeah.
you a W-2 employee versus 1099 versus somebody like Warren Buffett or a hedge fund manager who have a totally different set of tax laws that they have to, or not that they have to, but how they are compensated applies differently. So it's
Yeah.
not fair in that sense. That's the never ending question. Will it ever get changed? Probably not.
Yeah. And Jerry Jones, the way he pays taxes as an owner of a business, as opposed to one of his players who pays it as an employee of the business or whatever. Like, it's just
Correct.
interesting how we learn, like what you're talking about, where you worked at a job and now you work for yourself, and like there's just some differences there. And it's
Yeah.
hard. I think a lot of times my college didn't really talk to me about this stuff. My college talked to me about how to be a good employee and how to go work at a job. And they didn't really, I don't know. Like, it just seems like get educated, go get a job. And it feels like if you're going to do that, you're going to pay the highest amount of taxes, which, which is why some of these things we're going to talk about are so important to help that tax burden a little bit. Right.
Right. No, 100% agree. I think that the tax piece of it, that's, you can spend months on that alone and how to
Right.
reduce your taxable income and liability, but it's a never ending saga.
All right, we're back here with David Caviness. After some tech problems yesterday, we're going to roll right back into 401k. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. Glad
Okay,
to get back.
so we got 401k, and we're doing our speed round right now. Sorry, I didn't have my timer out here. So go ahead and give us the 411 on 401k.
Yeah, so 401k, let's just, we got a lot of numbers and letters, in this world. So the 401k simply is the IRS tax, part of the IRS tax code that sets these up. But 401ks are, they are corporate retirement plans. So they are, offered by corporations. They give you a incentive to invest for your own retirement by matching your contributions. Most typically, we'll see dollar for dollar up to 3% or some percentage of your salary. And what I like to tell clients all the time is, that's free money. That's an automatic return, even if you do nothing but put your money in cash inside the 401k plan.
Yeah.
Not participating is throwing away money, because if you don't pay, you don't get it. I mean, if you don't play, you don't get any of the extra benefits of it. So the purpose behind that is simply to encourage employees, individuals to save for their own retirement.
What is the number one reason why you think people do not participate in a 401k?
You know, I think a lot of times it's just lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of what it is. I do see, in some cases where there is let's call it a mistrust of the stock market or of investing, and that's a driver as well.
Yeah.
I think the emotional side of it plays into it sometimes. I invested during, in 2008, and I lost all my money.
Right.
And that drove a lot of people out of the market, and that, I think it's just the educational piece of it is why a lot of people don't participate.
Yeah. Interesting. And I think, for me, for a lot of my younger years, I mean, I didn't have a 401k offered to me as school district employees. I had a 403b, which we'll talk about. But I reinvested a lot of my money into my own real estate, into, my own business that I was running as well. And so for me, those were kind of my avenues that I was growing as well. But my wife, from day one when she started working at Lockheed Martin. It was like, and by the way, she had never been taught the concept of compound interest in school or in college or anywhere. And it was like, golly, like when students come to my classroom, I mean, we have a poster on the wall and we talk about the power of compound interest, and to different people who are like, you got to utilize this thing, you got to let money work for you. And anyway, the 403b, go ahead.
Yeah, so here's the difference. 403bs between 401k and 403b is simply what type of employer is offering the plan. I mentioned a second ago, 401ks were corporations. 403bs are your tax exempt employers. It's your nonprofits, hospitals, which tend to be largely set up as a nonprofit entity. Your churches, and like you, Brian, your school district employees, city employees, people that work for governmental entities. Basically the same exact concept as a 401k. The biggest difference for most people in a 403b is that there's not a matching set to it. Like, and I should distinguish, like on the governmental side, because most government employees or school district employees also participate in, like here in Texas, it's the state retirement plan, teachers retirement plan, or the municipal workers retirement plan. 403bs is something that there's no matching contribution to. It's just set up for the employees to be able to get a tax deferral on their contributions and save for their retirement.
And last year there was a massive teacher shortage. It was like, I think it was like 9,000 jobs were vacant, as opposed to the year before where there was 4,000. It was just some kind of like double the amount of teachers. Do you think, is it possible for a school district under 403b to have a matching program, or is that just not even, that can never be part of a 403b?
It can be. It's possible. I think the reality of the situation, especially with school districts, is just the financial side of it, and are the funds available to offer a match to the 403b.
Yeah. Well, and the other one here that my guy that does my investing for me was talking to me about last year was like, your contribution maxes for a 403b and a 457, I believe, were like 20,000 something per year, based on where we are at in our tax bracket. So he was telling me that I could get the 457. Go ahead and tell us what that is as well.
Yeah, so a 457, is commonly what we refer to as a deferred comp plan. So same premise, you elect to contribute into the 457. You get a tax deferral on that money, so it reduces your tax liability today. You'll pay taxes when you withdraw money from it. The biggest difference between a 457 versus a 403b or 401k is that you don't have to wait until you're 59 and a half to take that money out without incurring an extra 10% early distribution penalty.
Okay.
That's the biggest nuance there. Most 457 plans operate exactly like your 401k or 403b, in that if you elect to contribute to it, you have set of investment choices you can choose, or sometimes self-direct. I have seen them where there are, and I believe the school district may be this way as well. I need to review that plan again, but some will say if you contribute to the 457 plan, it's automatically invested. You choose you can choose the objective, right? Conservative, moderate growth, and then the company that sponsors that plan is then making those investment decisions. But that's a little small nuance that sometimes is there versus other plans.
Why are there limits? Like, why? I mean, that my guy that was telling me was like, well, I think you could contribute 20,000 in your 403b, you could contribute 20,000 in your 457. Why wouldn't the government just say, and he was like saying, look, Brian, you can really bring down your taxable income from your teaching job, because we try to have a ton of write-offs from within our real estate and within our business and all that as well over there to minimize our tax burden. But over here, as a teacher, like, why is there limits? Why wouldn't it just be unlimited?
Well, let's be honest, Uncle Sam needs to get paid. I think at the end of the day, this is one of those things where the government still needs the tax revenue, and so they're gonna incentivize you some to do savings on your own, but
Mhm.
you know, if they left it wide open, that would have a big impact on the coffers. So
Yeah.
that's really why there are limitations as far as how much you can contribute to retirement
Yeah, I
plans.
mean, and my wife and I talked about it, and after the new year here coming up, we want to max out both of those because it's just a great way to not hit, have the tax burden that we currently have.
Yep.
But anyway, all right, let's move on. Traditional IRA. Go ahead.
Yep. So, traditional IRA, now we're talking about individual plans where the 401k, 403b, 457 were employer sponsored. Now this is, by definition, IRA is, individual retirement arrangement. Actually, most people say account, but in the tax code, it's arrangement.
Okay.
This is where you as an individual can make your own contributions aside from your corporate plan. Now, there are some limitations of your ability to deduct that contribution based on your income levels. So there is a phase out and then a point at which you can still contribute, but you don't get the tax write off for it.
Okay. And why? I mean, what is the point of this? Like, is this for entrepreneurial type people, or these are people who have jobs or don't or are entrepreneurs?
Yeah, this is for anybody, really. You've got to, the only requirement is you have earned income. You're, for a married couple, at least one of the spouses has earned income,
Yeah.
in the family. So you're reporting earned income on your tax return. But
Okay.
anyone can contribute to, a traditional IRA.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you have the Roth IRA, which is I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Yep. So traditional and Roth, Roth traditionals came first, and then Roth came about many years later. And here's the big difference: a Roth does not give you any tax benefit today. So if I make my $6,000 contribution to the Roth, I don't get to write that off of my tax return when I
Hmm.
file in April. However, when I do take that money out in retirement, I'll pay no taxes on it then either. So all of the earnings, capital gains, anything that I would, earn on that money, say over the next 20, 30 years, is all tax free take those distributions in retirement. So
Yeah.
that's the big difference. And your slide, I think, breaks it down so well. It's tax break now and tax break later.
So what's interesting is that my investment guy told me within my 403b that based on my age and where I'm at within the school district or anything, to take it as a Roth 403b. So I don't get the tax benefits now because he believed that when I retired that I would want to be able to withdraw what does that mean?
Yeah. So, there's really two schools of thoughts on traditional versus Roth. If you are a high earner today and you think you expect in retirement your income needs are going to be a lot lower and
Mhm.
your income will be lower, thus putting you in a lower tax break or tax bracket, then you can make the argument that you receive more of a benefit today to get the tax break, and
Yeah.
then you'll pay taxes on that money at a later time. What I see in reality is most people rarely go down in their tax bracket when they get to retirement. It, it- some do, you're very high net worth, high six figure earners, will, but most people they tend to stay pretty consistent over time, and
Wait,
so
wait a minute. Wait a minute. So when someone retires,
yeah.
they're still maintaining the same income level as the earning level that they were prior to retirement. Is that what you're saying?
um, Within a range, yeah. I
Okay.
think, and by when I say income in retirement, I'm talking about, okay, how much money do you need each month to live on, right? Like what do you need in expenses? And what I find is, yes, your income can be lower, because your expenses are typically lower than what you're earning today. But it's not always enough to really make a huge difference from a tax bracket standpoint. So you're from work, it's from, okay, I'm taking out of my own personal savings, my IRAs or 401ks.
Yeah.
Maybe they, you know, maybe they have a pension. Very few now have that, but that's still there in your Social Security income. Those sort of things are still taxed even in retirement.
Man, David, this is it kind of makes my brain hurt a little bit. Like this is a lot. I mean, like, and I tell my students, like, I mean, I was a B- student in high school and college. I find people like yourself or people who are like, know this industry and go to them and say, not blind trust, but like, hey, here's where we're at. What should we do? Like, I want my students to kind of have an ocean's wide knowledge,
Yes.
but like that deep, so that they kind of understand what they're talking about. The last one here I think is an interesting one, which I don't have any of these, and I probably should. I think my insurance guy has talked to us about this as well. But what are annuities, and why should I care about them?
All right, so let's talk. Annuities are a whole separate animal when we talk about investments and investment worlds. And what you just said, I think, is the key point here. Annuities are insurance products. I think a lot of times they get misrepresented in my world as an investment vehicle, and they can be, but they are an insurance product first. And what that is basically a transference of risk from me or you to the insurance company that's going to guarantee your payments. So basically, in a simple form, an annuity is me giving an insurance company a sum of money. I give them $50,000, and then in return, they're going to give me income for life. They're going to pay me out of income stream as long as I live. Um, Obviously, there's some math behind that, and they look at the longevity tables and how long am I expected to live. If I outlive that, then I win. If I die too soon, then the insurance company wins.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. You give them a lump sum, and then they pay you every month for the rest of your life. That sounds like a pretty good deal. Why haven't I done this?
You know, it can be a good deal. I think that at the end of the day, you have a higher earning capability on your money. When you're trying to accumulate and grow, you have a better opportunity. You will get better returns investing that money outside of the annuity. When you get to retirement, and now we're trying to set up, okay, I need $5,000 a month to pay all my expenses and maintain my lifestyle. And
Yeah.
we start looking at it, and I may have 2,000 a month coming in Social Security, and then now I've got $1 million that I've saved on my own. That's when that conversation really comes into play. I think that the best time to have the annuity conversation is at or near retirement, when we're trying to make sure the income that you need to match your lifestyle is there.
Yeah.
Now, the second part of that is annuities very seldom have any sort of inflation or cost of living adjustment to them.
Right.
So once you start that income stream, it is what it is. And so now you talk about in retirement, we've got a 30-year lifespan that we've got to account for. Well, let's look at the last year and a half. We
Right.
know how much prices have increased
Yeah.
just over the last year. Imagine a 20 and 30-year period where I need $5,000 a month today, and in 5 or 10 years, that 5,000 may now be 7,500 or 8,000 a month,
Right.
just to keep pace with the rising costs. So